This is Mac OS Ken.
Pushback on Apple's child protection plans, news on the next round of iPhones, and Apple is looking for beta testing help. It is Monday, the 9th of August, 2021. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Ladder. Smart, dynamic term life insurance. Learn more at ladderlife.com/macOSKen. This show is also sponsored by Notion, one workplace for your whole team. While work collaboration tools have a lot in common, they are not all the same. Some only let you organize information, while others are only good for project management. Notion is the one tool for your whole team. Build a wiki, take notes, push projects forward, and do it all in one place. Because Notion is the one place where every team from engineering to sales can work together seamlessly with 500 integrated apps, including Google and Slack. IBM, Square, Pixar. Hundreds of thousands of teams worldwide are already saving time, getting more done, and making work easier for their team members with Notion. See what Notion can do for your team. Notion is currently running a special offer to listeners of the show. Go to notion.so and use promo code MacOSKen to get $250 off its annual team plan. That's multiple months free for your growing team. Don't forget, that's notion.so. Enter promo code MacOSKen during checkout. Get collaborating with $250 off at notion.so and use promo code MacOSKen. The hue and cry over Apple's child protection plans continued into the weekend. Announced last Thursday and covered here Friday, there are three primary moves Apple intends to make. New communication tools will enable parents to play a more informed role in helping their children navigate communication online. iOS and iPadOS will use new applications of cryptography to help limit the spread of child sexual abuse material online while designing for user privacy. And finally, updates to Siri and Search provide parents and children expanded information and help if they encounter unsafe situations. Not surprisingly, the privacy-minded have a few concerns. Apple Insider has word of an open letter addressing Apple's plans. Posted on the website appleprivacyletter.com. The letter does not take long to get to the point. Starting with the second sentence, while child exploitation is a serious problem, and while efforts to combat it are almost unquestionably well-intentioned, Apple's proposal introduces a backdoor that threatens to undermine fundamental privacy protections for all users of Apple products. Apple's proposed technology works by continuously monitoring photos saved or shared on the user's iPhone, iPad, or Mac, the letter continues. One system detects if a certain number of objectionable photos is detected in iCloud storage and alerts the authorities. Another notifies the child's parents if iMessage is used to send or receive photos that a machine learning algorithm considers to contain nudity. The concern is not for pedophiles. The concern is not for people who traffic in child sexual abuse material. The concern focuses on what else the tech might be trained on. The open letter quotes Sarah Jamie Lewis, executive director of the Open Privacy Research Society, who said on Twitter, "If Apple are successful in introducing this, how long do you think it will be before the same is expected of other providers, before the walled garden prohibits apps that don't do it, before it is enshrined in law? How long do you think it will be before the database is expanded to include terrorist content, harmful but legal content, state-specific censorship?" Can you imagine? One person says you don't have to. The letter has Dr. Nadeem Kobisi, a researcher in security and privacy issues, pointing out on Twitter, Apple sells iPhones without FaceTime in Saudi Arabia because local regulation prohibits encrypted phone calls. That's just one example of many where Apple's bent to local pressure What happens when local regulations in Saudi Arabia mandate that messages be scanned not for child sexual abuse, but for homosexuality or for offenses against the monarchy? Stating similar worry was a statement last week from the Electronic Frontier Foundation. The abuse cases are easy to imagine. Governments that outlaw homosexuality might require the classifier to be trained to restrict apparent LGBTQ+ content, or an authoritarian regime might demand the classifier be able to spot popular satirical images or protest flyers. Apple Insider says the letter reads more like an indictment than an open letter. Certainly that argument could be made. It comes with a couple of requests as well. Apple's deployment of its proposed content monitoring technology is halted immediately, and Apple issue a statement reaffirming their commitment to end-to-end encryption and to user privacy. The letter closes saying Apple's current path threatens to undermine decades of work by technologists, academics, and policy advocates towards strong privacy-preserving measures being the norm across a majority of consumer electronic devices and use cases. We ask that Apple reconsider its technology rollout, lest it undo that important work. Over 5,500 individuals have signed on so far. 32 organizations are listed as well, including Think Privacy, Freedom of the Press Foundation, and the New York Public Library. The letter is accepting more signatures for individuals and organizations on GitHub. Now, some names are, of course, big enough to garner attention on their own. A piece from Cult of Mac says whistleblower Edward Snowden and other privacy advocates are speaking out against Apple's plan. The piece has Snowden saying, no matter how well-intentioned, Apple is rolling out mass surveillance. Make no mistake, if they can scan for kiddie porn today, they can scan for anything tomorrow. They turned $1 trillion of devices into iNarcs without asking. Then we get to statements that are hard to take seriously. Engadget cites a thread on Twitter by Will Cathcart, the head of Facebook-owned WhatsApp. According to the report, Cathcart called it an Apple-built and operated surveillance system that could very easily be used to scan private content for anything they or a government decides it wants to control. He also raised questions about how such a system may be exploited in China or other countries or abused by spyware companies. To be clear, when I say it's hard to take Cathcart's statement seriously, I mean him no offense. I know very little about the guy. But it's hard to hear statements from a Facebook subsidiary without being at least a little mindful of the contentious relationship between Apple and Facebook. Even harder to take seriously, Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney. A piece from Apple Insider has Sweeney saying on Twitter, "I've tried hard to see this from Apple's point of view, but inescapably this is government spyware installed by Apple based on a presumption of guilt. Though Apple wrote the code, its function is to scan personal data and report it to the government." He apparently went on, but I cannot, at least not with him. You can't spend almost exactly 1 year being an Apple-focused troll, then expect to be heard as a dispassionate voice of reason where Apple is concerned. Now, the biggest concern expressed by most seems to be what Apple might be forced to do at some point. For its part, Apple says it wouldn't. Sometime Sunday night, Monday morning, Apple posted an FAQ covering its expanded Protections for Children program. To one of the questions, could governments force Apple to add non-child sexual abuse material or CSAM images to its hash list? Apple answered, Apple will refuse any such demands. Apple's CSAM detection capability is built solely to detect known CSAM images stored in iCloud photos that have been identified by experts at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and other child safety groups. We have faced demands to build and deploy government-mandated changes that degrade the privacy of users before and have steadfastly refused those demands. We will continue to refuse them in the future. Let us be clear, this technology is limited to detecting CSAM stored in iCloud, and we will not accede to any government's request to expand it. I don't want to be that guy, But that's only true as the law states it today, right? Every time anybody rakes Apple over the coals for moves it makes in China, Apple points out that it has to follow the law where it does business. If the law changes in England or Japan or, I don't know, the US maybe, Apple might fight, but Apple could lose. And what would Apple do then? Anyway, I think that might be the worry that some people are expressing. For its part, Apple is proud of what it's done and proud of the people who've done it. In a memo sent to Apple employees last Thursday and published online by 9to5Mac, the Cupertino company acknowledged the naysayers, saying, "We've seen many positive responses today. We know some people have misunderstandings and more than a few are worried about the implications, but we will continue to explain and detail the features so people understand what we've built." One might read that as condescending, though it's positively pleasant compared to a few lines from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Sent along with the Apple note to employees, the NCMEC said, "We know that the days to come will be filled with the screeching voices of the minority. Our voices will be louder. Our commitment to lift kids who have lived through the most unimaginable abuse and victimizations will be stronger." More news in a moment, but first a word from Ladder. Smart, dynamic term life insurance. I don't want to sound like an old man, but do you ever stop and think about the good disruptions that we have seen in our lives? Smartphones, streaming media services, the internet, for crying out loud. Ladder is looking to harness that last one and be a disruptor as well, making learning about and getting life insurance so much better than it's been. Before Ladder, if you wanted to get life insurance, you had to go someplace, sit through a sales pitch, fill out a ton of paperwork, then wait for weeks to see if you were approved. Now, with Ladder, you can get fast, affordable term life insurance without leaving home. It's all online when you apply for $3 million or less in coverage. No doctors, no blood tests, no paperwork. If you're between the ages of 20 and 60, need coverage, and want to team up with a company that's redeeming life insurance, choose Ladder. Go to ladderlife.com/macOSKen today to see if you're instantly approved. That's LADDER, ladderlife.com/macOSKen, ladderlife.com/macOSKen. Undoubtedly the weirdest story here today. Work continues on Wuhan Apple Store for September opening. That's the headline from an Apple Insider piece. They've apparently got permission to start work on the store, which the report says should be open next month, perhaps to coincide with the launch of the iPhone 13 and other products. Assuming it is the next one to open, it'll be Apple's 43rd retail location in mainland China, according to Apple Insider. You know the stories here in the States about people not being overly interested in crap jobs with crap pay as the pandemic has progressed? Yeah, it turns out that's happening in the supply chain as well. Cult of Mac highlights the difficulty companies like Lens Technology, Luxshare, and Foxconn are having hiring for the assembly line following a decline in interest in the work. The Cult highlights a report from South China Morning Post saying Apple suppliers in China, including the world's largest iPhone factory, are raising their starter bonuses amid stiff competition for the shrinking pool of young people willing to do manufacturing jobs. The answer won't surprise you. It's more money. Quoting the Cult, Foxconn, Apple's largest assembly partner, has reportedly raised its bonus for new hires to 10,200 yuan, or $1,578, if they stay for at least 90 days, Lens Technology has doubled its bonus from 5,000 to 10,000 yuan, or $1,544. Luxshare is now offering 5,000 yuan, or $772, up from just 2,500 yuan, as a referral bonus for new staff. There's also a top-up bonus of 3,800 yuan, or $587, for returning workers who previously left the company. Lack of workers, lack of components, and demand that seems unprecedented. Cult of Mac says Apple is looking for between 130 million and 150 million next-generation iPhone units in the second half of this year alone. And finally today, want to compute on the cutting edge and do Apple a favor? iMore says the Cupertino company is trying to get people in its beta software program to try out its beta software. Well, if they were in it, wouldn't you think they'd be doing that? And yet, the piece says in an email spotted by 9to5Mac, Apple is encouraging users who are enrolled in the beta software program to try out the latest public beta of iOS 15, iPadOS 15, macOS Monterey, tvOS 15, or watchOS 8. iMore says the email was only sent to users already enrolled in the beta software program, which, again, seems kind of weird. If you're not in the program and want to be, it seems that Apple would appreciate having you. You can find out more at beta.apple.com. Coming up in a few minutes, we interrupt the usual flow for Apple's child protection push. Mac Voices host Chuck Joyner joins us to kick around some of Apple's plans because really, that one's news to everybody. The show is called In a Few Minutes. Find it and listen on macosken.com or wherever you get podcasts. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Notion. One workspace for your whole team. Get collaborating with $250 off at notion.so and use promo code macOSCan. This show is also sponsored by Ladder, smart, dynamic term life insurance. Learn more at ladderlife.com/macOScan. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.